Hello, and welcome to Socially Holistic Podcast. Socially Holistic helps coaches and holistic entrepreneurs and women in heart-centered businesses make sense of social media so they can build their own online network and get more clients. As a heart-centered business owner, you do amazing work. Holly's mission in life is to help you help more people. Help us help more women in business with a 5-star review of this podcast. Please leave one today over at iTunes. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more heart-centered businesses will be successful. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Socially Holistic Podcast, episode 62. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm here with today's very special guest, the Stacey Harris. Stacey helps people amplify their business online. Welcome, Stacey.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
I'm very excited to have you.
It's going to be an exciting show.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your business and what it is that you do.
All right. My business is the Stacey Harris because Stacey Harris is an incredibly common name. So I got super original and added a "the" at the beginning.
I love that, by the way. It makes you sound so much more dynamic. It's like the Stacey Harris.
What's funny is it literally happened at like 11:30 at night. I was like, no, I really want my own name. And so I put "the" in front of it. Like there was no forethought here. This was not like a creative, like purposeful, like, oh, I will be the Stacey Harris. And then people started referring to me, and it was just on Twitter. Like that's how it started. It was just my Twitter handle. And it really like kind of caught on, and people started calling me the Stacey Harris as like all one word, like Madonna style. And so I figured that's just like really solid branding and marketing, right?
Oh yeah.
It's just a job well done. So I'm the Stacey Harris. And I do social media, online marketing, consulting, and coaching. And I basically teach people specifically women, how to market themselves online without feeling gross and sleazy and like getting to shower afterwards, because that is the dream. And I do that through a few things. I've got a podcast called Hit the Mic. I've got a web series called Hit the Mic TV because I'm not creative enough to come up with different names. I have Rockstar Guides, which are self-study programs. And we've got one for Google+, we've got one for Facebook, and there's one for podcasting. Mm-hmm. And then I do that through a mastermind, which I run 3 times a year. And we do groups of 6. And it's called the Business Amplifier Mastermind. That's how I work with people. And so there's a ton of free content in the podcast and the TV, YouTube show. And then, of course, I do webinars once or twice a month. And then there's the paid stuff. So that's what I do. I just talk about social media and marketing all day, every day.
Sounds familiar. So tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get into this whole social media thing?
I tripped and fell, honestly. My background is actually in audio engineering. Mm-hmm. I went to school to make records. And when you want to make records for a living and you have zero musical ability, you go to school to be an audio engineer because that's all they'll let you do. And so after I got out of school, I worked for a web radio station that was also a local label here in town in Phoenix. And so my whole job was for this single 19-year-old girl was to go to shows and hang out with boys in bands. It was a very hard job. And then I decided I didn't want to move to LA or New York or Nashville and really go big with it. So I started looking at other things, and I married my husband, and we had a son, and I stayed home for a couple of years, and I decided I really wanted to do something with like my brain. I wanted to work. And so but I didn't want to go someplace to work. I liked the idea of working from home. So I started my first business, which was my introduction to the whole online business space. And I was a VA. And that's where I fell in love with social media, is sort of growing my own business and community through social media, and seeing the power that can happen with social media when it's done effectively, and when it's done from a real place of connection instead of shouting. So that's where I fell in love with that. And I progressed after realizing I didn't really want to be a VA. I closed up shop and opened up my company that I have now, which at the time was called Hit the Mic Marketing. Because again, I do not creative enough to come up with multiple names. I just use the same thing. I just write it out. And so I tripped and fell. It was through figuring out that I was going to make something work online, and then figuring out how to make that work online, that I realized I really loved social.
Yeah, it's great. And
it's
I
a
love
long-winded answer. I'm sorry.
No, that's totally perfect because I mean, I do social media as well, and we all have our different path to where we, how we got here.
Yeah, no one grew up going, you know what? I want to teach people how to do Facebook ads one day.
Yeah, especially not me. I'm 41. There was no such thing as Facebook when I was young.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I was in college, because I worked with musicians, it was MySpace. That was all we used was MySpace, because I worked and was surrounded by musicians all of the time. Facebook was like for nerdy college kids. We were creative, and so we used MySpace.
Right, because you could customize your background.
That's right. You could make it obnoxious.
Yes.
And have autoplay music, which is like, internet sin number 1.
Thank you for saying that, by the way.
It drives me crazy.
So tell me a little bit more about your business. How has your business journey been? I mean, since you quit your business as a VA and started up just really focusing on the social media, what has that journey been like? How has your business grown?
My business has grown a lot, and mostly in how I work with people. When I first started Hit the Mic after being a VA, I did a lot of management, which, in my opinion, for those listening who want to do social media, is a fantastic way to start, because you get to test out all of your theories in all of these different businesses. You get people to pay you to use them as guinea pigs.
And they give you advertising money to spend for their business.
Yes. They're like, yeah, sure, go ahead, try that.
Yep.
Well, let's see if it works. Which is my favorite thing about social, is that it's half the time it's just sort of like, let's see what it does, because it changes all the time.
It is, and I think that's such an important thing to point out. It's all the social networks are constantly evolving and growing, and they're getting new features, and the way that we use all the social networks is constantly growing. So you've really kind of got to be flexible to kind of flow with how things change.
Yeah, and a lot of people talk about, well, Facebook makes changes all the time, but it's not just about the networks making the changes. A lot of it is about the psychology of the user base changing. The people who were the biggest users of Facebook 3 years ago are not the biggest users of Facebook anymore. So that's an important distinction to make, is the psychology of that user is changing and the kind of things they want to see. A few years ago, photos were not the biggest thing on Facebook. Texts was, and links were certainly not highlighted like they are now.
Yeah.
So kind of how you use them will change, and the ads area of Facebook has changed dramatically in the last few years. I think rolling with those changes is really, really important, and it's what keeps us in jobs.
Yeah, exactly. And it keeps us on our toes.
I try never to get mad at Facebook making changes, because I'm like, oh, yep, I'm going to get some consults.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to be getting some emails. Will you explain this to me? What does this mean? Can I still do this?
Yeah, I just gave a talk today at a networking group, and I had all these people come up to me afterwards with questions. They're like, how do I do this? What do I do that? So it's great, because there's always questions from people about social media. So one of the big questions I get all the time, and one of the things that I was really excited to talk to you about, is Google+. I know, and I love that, because I don't. I mean, I totally recognize the benefits of being on Google+. I use it, but I can't say that I love it. So I want to pick your brain about Google+. Really? Okay, so tell me about Google+. Tell me why you love it.
Well, first of all, and this is just the first thing I say to anybody who ever asks me, is it's a social network backed by a search engine. Yeah. That cannot be a bad idea.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a good idea. Think about especially pre-graph search on Facebook, how horrific the search function was. And every time Twitter messes with search functions, I swear it gets less helpful. And so I love that it's searchable, not only from the perspective of SEO and it helping my content in Google, but like people being able to find me and the stuff I'm talking about on Google+. It brings all of the best stuff social. You get long form posts, you can treat it almost like a micro blog, a la Tumblr. You have hashtag power like you have on Twitter. That's super amazing. And in my opinion, easier to use, because a lot of times you can see the other posts on using that hashtag right there on the card. You just hit the button and it flips itself over. Yeah. I find that to be awesome.
Yeah, visually it's awesome.
You have video and photos and links showing up in really big, big ways. If you have any kind of YouTube presence, you should be obsessed with Google+, because it highlights your videos as a video. Like, people can play it right there. And it's still your YouTube. You don't have to go post it separately over on Facebook and get the tiny little photo box next to the description, you have your full-on YouTube video.
Yeah, and that's the power of YouTube and Google Plus being Google products. They've really, really managed to, focus on that.
Yeah, and that's the thing I think that's also really valuable about Google Plus is it's connected to Google. How many of us have Gmail addresses?
Yeah.
Or have our our business emails set up through business or Google Apps for Work, as it's now called.
Yeah.
I think that's really, it's connected to everything. And so people have and this is one of the things I really try to hit on is you likely have a Google Plus page, whether you're using it or not.
Yeah, whether you know it or not.
You might as well go in and make it, even if you don't use it on a daily basis, invest the time in going to make sure it's representing you in the best way possible, because you can also just put links there to the other social networks you use. There's huge link options there, so people can see your profile and go, oh, they're not real active here. Oh, but look, I can connect with them on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or wherever else you want to have a presence. Go in there and take the time to at least set it up. But really, you should be using it. But at least make sure it's representing you well.
Now, my thing with Google Plus is that a lot of my ideal clients, because I work with women in heart-centered businesses, so life coaches, holistic practitioners, they're not really on Google Plus. So the whole social side of Google Plus for me is really kind of dismal. I mean, I've got a few contacts that do comment and, engage, but most of the people that I know either are not on there or not connecting, not doing anything with it other than just posting. So how's your experience with Google Plus as far as engagement and people actually, doing stuff?
I get pretty good engagement. I work with a lot of health coaches and life coaches too, and there are huge parts of every industry over there. And one of the big things I say to people, especially in those kind of fields where they're not as heavily represented, is to go over there and start a community, because you'll likely find that if there's not a community there already, there are people who are looking for it. You hear a lot of people saying, oh, I really want to be on Google Plus, but I can't find anybody to connect with. Well, if you would connect with the other people also saying that,
yes,
you would all have someone to connect with. And to also, I connect with a lot of people, not just, and I do this through communities, which are by the way, are basically Facebook groups, except better organized and super awesomer because it's Google Plus. But I connect with people in my industry, and then I also connect with people who are ideal clients. So I connect with more than just where my clients are, and it's a huge, huge asset. If you want to learn more about social, there are a lot of really great social people on Google Plus who are sharing valuable content all the time for you to engage with. So maybe it's, you don't go onto it saying initially this is going to be a huge place for me to get clients, but this may be a huge place for me to learn more, establish my expertise, and expand my business here and be a leader in my industry by being here first.
And networking with people there.
And the nice thing is, it's not as crowded, which means your stuff gets in front of people. A lot of people are upset about the organic views on Facebook, and I actually wrote about this on Medium a couple weeks ago. And you can't blame Facebook for that. The average user likes like 1,000 pages and has several hundred, if not close to 1,000 friends. So there's a lot of stuff going on in that news feed. Think about how quickly your Twitter, timeline goes by. It's just a lot of content where there's just simply not as much content on Google Plus right now. So your stuff is actually showing up in front of people for more than like half a millisecond.
Yeah, exactly.
That's valuable.
Yeah. And you're still actually seeing all of those posts rather than, as you said on Facebook, just going by with the wind. So tell me, what would you say are your top tips on how to, as you say, amplify your business using Google Plus? So for someone who thinks, what the heck is this? I have to get on another social media site. I don't really get it. I'm not really into it. What are your top tips for starting out on Google Plus?
My top tip for starting out on Google Plus is making sure your profile or page, whichever you decide to use, it's really well filled out.
Yeah.
So make sure you're taking advantage of all the places in the About area that you have to really highlight your expertise and get people directed back to your website or your opt-in or whatever it is. Make sure that your foundation is just solid. From there, I really suggest checking out communities, which are, like I said, a lot like Facebook groups, because that's where you're going to be connecting with people who are actually active on Google Plus. So you're going to be connecting with other users, not just other profiles, if that makes sort of sense. And then I also really love Hangouts as a tool for webinars, for mastermind calls, for team meetings. They're so powerful as a way of connecting. One of my favorite ways to use them is about once a month. I'll do a live episode of my podcast on a Tuesday where I do it through Google Hangouts on Air, and I have the Q&A function open so people can ask me questions right there. So once a month, people get live hour-long access to just ask me whatever they want to ask me. And that's hugely beneficial to my audience. Yeah. And selfishly, it's hugely beneficial to my brand.
Now, have you had really good experience with Google Hangouts and Hangouts on Air as far as, the visual and the audio and everything? Because every time that I've tried to use it, I don't know whether it's the people that I'm connected with have terrible connection or what, but it does not seem to be a fluid and pleasant experience.
I actually have great experience with it. And I mean, so much so that I'm actually, the day we're recording this, I'm doing a webinar on how to use it as a webinar tool.
Oh, great.
Because it's hugely beneficial. My big suggestion is if you're having a problem connecting, make sure that you're not having a ton of other things open that you don't need, but also hardwire in. Be connected to the internet via your Ethernet cable instead of Wi-Fi. Yes. Connecting via Wi-Fi is going to be a struggle because it's a hugely powerful tool. It's doing a lot, and especially if you're getting on and like in today's call, I'm going to be sharing my screen and I'm going to be showing other things. So it's going to be taking a lot of resources. So for me to be hardwired in is just going to make it much easier for me to be connected and a much more reliable connection. Think about, it's the same thing when you have Skype calls. Everyone talks about Google Hangouts having this terrible transition. Skype's the exact same way. Like when you're not hardwired in and your Wi-Fi is so, you tend to have lags in your audio, you tend to have lags in your video, your screen breaks up, all of that same stuff happens. So hardwire in and you will see that a lot of that stuff will go the wayside.
Thank you so much for saying that, because I'm always telling people that, and they always say, really, I only use Wi-Fi. And I've got this horrific cable going like out the door of my office, around the corner to but I don't care that I have to, step over it every day because
mine's the same way. My router is actually 3 doors down from my office in our master bedroom because there's not a phone jack in my home office. So it can't be in here. So I have a big cable that I get out. And most of the time I do use Wi-Fi. If I'm just working in here during the day, I just use Wi-Fi. But if I'm going to be doing Hangouts or calls like this, I drag the cable down the hall. I call my 5-year-old son and say, okay, it's time for the roadie. And he pulls the cable and we plug in. And a really easy insurance policy to make sure. The next thing, especially if you're using a Mac, to realize that you actually have to turn the Wi-Fi off on your laptop or your iMac so that it stops using the Wi-Fi. Because even plugged in, it will default to Wi-Fi unless you turn your Wi-Fi off using your little Wi-Fi guy.
I always forget to turn the Wi-Fi off.
I do too. I'll plug in and I'll be like, why is this still crap? Oh yeah, because it's still using Wi-Fi. It doesn't care that I plugged the cable in.
Exactly. Great.
It's just like plugging in, when you're on a Skype call, plugging in your headphones so you don't get that audio feedback. It's just a quick plug that can make all the difference in the quality of your call.
Yeah, it's little details that just make a huge difference.
Yeah.
So do you have any other tips for Google+? I really feel like we need to convince my audience that it's a great social site. So you've shared so many things, but how has Google+ been really powerful in amplifying your business?
For me, I think my favorite thing about Google+ is the one thing it's the same reason I'm learning to love LinkedIn, which is my least favorite, is my time to benefit, the ROI, the return on the investment of my time is much smaller. I can spend a lot less time there and get a lot more out of it because I don't have to post the same thing 37 times to get hits on it. I don't have to post the same thing 47 times to get some +1s or some comments. People tend to engage because the content tends to stick around. Also, smaller, I'm a big proponent of quality over quantity. Yes. And so there are communities that are smaller than the communities I'm a part of, or the groups I'm a part of, over on Facebook. But when I engage in those communities, I actually get to engage in those communities. I get to comment on other people's stuff. I get people to comment on my stuff because there's not as much noise, because there's not as much chaos happening. It's not flying by. I don't know if anybody else is a member of Facebook groups that have 2, 3, 5, 10,000 people in them, but it's hard to keep track.
It's hard to keep track of. Not only that, sometimes I'll see questions that I'll think, oh, I'll answer that. And then I look and there's always already been like 24 answers. And I think, do I really have anything new to add to that? Probably not.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm going to say the same thing that 7 other people said immediately before me. Yeah. So I think it's really about being able, especially for those people who are in industries where they feel like their ideal clients aren't there. It's growing massively every year. It's growing at a much faster rate than Facebook or Twitter are growing at this point. So now is your time to go over there, establish yourself, and when everybody else gets there, you'll be the go-to. You're instantly giving leadership sort of qualities to yourself as a leader in your industry because you're ahead of the curve. Yeah. And that's one of the nice things about being, a quote unquote early adapter. And I don't think you can at this point really be an early adapter because, I had a beta invite to Google+. That's early adapter people. But you could be in your industry. You could be, one of the people who everyone else shows up and you're there. You have a group for your ideal clients to join. You have a community. You've got content. You've got stuff for them to engage with already. You're not playing catch up. And I think it's, it doesn't take a ton of time to establish that and really, really beneficial for the growth of your business.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And as you said, there's a learning curve to every social network because everyone is different and everyone is, constantly evolving. So the sooner you get there, the more time you'll have to really learn how to use it as well.
Yeah, think about people who are starting Facebook pages right now. Yeah. It's a whole lot harder for them to grow a community than it was for somebody who started a Facebook page a year ago even. So, if you can figure out that learning curve now and get yourself established there now, you're ahead of the game. And I am a big proponent of choosing the networks that are right for you. This network may not be a fit for you. It may simply just not work for you. It may just you don't want to mess with it. Then don't mess with it. But at least give it a chance.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that. I keep echoing everything you say because, again, I just gave this talk today. And one of the big things that I always say is, A, you don't need to be on every single social network because you don't have the time. And B, not everyone is right for you and your business. So you really need to go with, where your ideal clients are and what you enjoy. So if you absolutely hate something, don't force yourself to use it.
If you hate it, it will come across in the content you put out.
Yeah, it'll just be awkward.
Yeah. The thing I said this earlier, so I hate to repeat myself, but it's worth repeating, is even if you don't want to use Google+, go in there and make sure that your profile is representing your email address well or your YouTube account well, because they are connected. So likely people, if you use one of those two tools or both of those tools, likely people are going to find you in that profile, whether you're using it or not. So make sure that the about information is really still, getting them where they need to go, getting them back to your website, getting them to the profiles you do use. And then simply put a status that says, hey, this isn't my home base. Come connect with me on XYZ. Give them that next step so they don't just fall off. Yeah,
exactly. So they know where to go. Yeah, because I think sometimes when people come across, a lot of times people have abandoned their Twitter account or, a different social media account. And if they don't, kind of give that final message to, I'm taking some time away from the site or I'm leaving the site, find me over here. It's like, people just click away and then forget about you.
It's true. And, I actually have, when I started Hit the Mic Marketing, I got the Twitter handle Hit the Mic, which I don't use, but I keep because I don't want someone else to use because it's still a huge part of my brand. But the description on it says, connect with me at the Stacey Harris, so that people know when they find it to connect with me over there. My old Hit the Mic Marketing Facebook page that I couldn't convert to the Stacey Harris has a message that says, connect with me over at, and the about area says, connect with me over at. So that people have that next step and they don't just get lost.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really important. Give signs on the trail so that people can get to you.
Yeah, you got to leave your breadcrumbs.
Exactly. Your digital breadcrumbs.
That's right.
So, Stacey, do you have any women business mentors? Or are there any women in business who inspire you?
I do. I am a huge Marie Forleo fan. I'm sure that's not the first time you've gotten that answer.
No, definitely not.
I'm a huge Marie Forleo fan. I am also a huge Denise Duffield-Thomas fan. I'm also a huge fan of Natalie Lucier. Actually, I went through her mastermind last year, and it was great. She's fantastic. She's just as nice as I thought she would be. And then also, there's a lot of people who I work with all the time and I spend time with all the time that are huge inspirations and mentors to me. My friend Nicole Longstreet of The Wardrobe Code is one of my faves. My friend Amanda Schaffner, who's over at the Path of Least Revision, and she's a writing coach and an editor. I adore working with her, and she's doing really cool stuff. The thing I like most about Amanda is she balances being an author and a business owner. Like, she actually writes fiction novels and teaches people how to write books, fiction and nonfiction. Ooh. And so I think that's so cool that she balances these two kind of identities, these two businesses separately. I'm also a huge fan of Julie Catino over at Brand Twist. She used to work for Virgin, and she has this really cool program that I'm lucky to be a part of called Brand School. And she does really amazing stuff with branding, and it's really interesting to watch her work and watch her interact with her clients. So I have a ton of them, as you can tell. So go check them all out.
Great. I will provide links to them in the show notes. So, Stacey, I wanted to revisit the different things that you offer and how other women in business can benefit from working with you. So you've got your Business Amplifier Mastermind. Tell us a little bit more about that.
The Business Amplifier Mastermind is probably my most favorite thing that I get to do. Ooh. Don't tell my other stuff. Because I don't do a ton of one-on-one work anymore. My one-on-one clients are all people who have come to me through something else. So like I said, I'm a part of Brand School, or they've been through the Business Amplifier Mastermind. So it's my way of working with people one-to-one, because there's a one-to-one component in the program. But it's really action-based. So it's a 3-month program that doesn't have a specific curriculum. There's not something you're going to get instructed on every month. It's about having a goal for your business for the next 3 months. Maybe it's to launch a program or rebrand or launch a podcast or whatever it is. And we work on that together, you and I, and you and your group, your accountability group. There's 6 people in the program total. So there's 7 of us on group calls, and everybody gets hot seat time and everybody gives feedback. And because it's only 6 people, you get to actually connect with the other people and engage and support each other and learn from each other. And really the focus is, what you're supposed to be doing. What you're supposed to execute on, but you're not executing on it. So here is where we take the action. Here is where we make that forward. Make that forward movement by actually getting stuff done. And you're accountable to that by talking to me, and you're accountable with your accountability buddies that you meet with each week to make sure that you're on task and on track, and you actually come out of it with your goals accomplished. I had a woman that went through it with me this summer who, by the end of our 3 months together, she had hired her first team member, expanded her consulting offerings, and really expanded her business in a major, major way, because she went from doing one-on-one all the time. It was all her. There's not enough time in the day. I can't even get my stuff done. I'm so drowning in client work, to freeing up space to invest time in growing her business and brand. Because she brought somebody on, and she brought on clients to more than pay for that person. So I think that's really the benefit is taking the action and being a part of a community that really inspires you to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone that's been in business long enough has said that, what they get out of a mastermind is just so powerful that it's, priceless.
It is. It's not exactly priceless. There is a price.
Exactly. But I mean,
value.
But the value is so much more than what you've actually paid.
Yeah, it is. It's a powerful thing to invest in yourself. It really is.
I totally agree. So tell us a little bit about your Rockstar Guides, because you've got one for Facebook, Google+, and for podcasting. And these are kind of like a multimedia thing, because you've got videos and you've got other stuff.
Yeah, it's a membership-based site, so mostly because I update it once a month. Because you think Facebook and Google Plus changes annoy you now. Wait till you have to revamp a program 6 months after you launch it.
Yep. Been there.
Because Facebook changed everything. So if I'm not mad, you can't be mad. But yeah, they're self-study programs, so they're available all the time. You can get them whenever you need help with something. And they basically, for example, the Facebook guide walks you through, it's very Facebook 101, starting your page, starting your profile, how to use them, how to use groups. There's the most valuable piece that most people tell me is the Facebook ads piece, because we talk about boosted posts and why I don't love them.
Yep.
We talk about how to create ads in the ads manager, but we also go completely through the Power Editor, which is the best way to create Facebook ads, in my opinion. I teach you how to do that. And then our last part of that is strategy. And then with that, you get access to a Google Plus community and also a Facebook group that I am in every day answering questions. So yes, it's a self-study program. You don't get time with me one-on-one, but I'm there to answer questions every step of the way. And that's true for the Google Plus guide and the podcasting guide as well. You know, the podcasting guide's a little different because you learn how to launch a show. We talk about, you're learning to record and edit from an audio engineer perspective, which is super valuable, I think.
Exactly. And I think very rare in podcasters as well.
Yeah. So you learn how to do it. We talk about Macs and PCs. So we're learning both ways. And also because I'm an audio engineer, I tell you all the stuff you don't really need, that a lot of and I'm going to say it because I have to, but especially the male-driven programs tend to focus a lot on gear.
Yeah.
And toys. And they're awesome, and I love them, and I want them all too because that's my personality, but they're not always necessary.
Yeah.
And they're also quite expensive. So I basically teach you to start a podcast on under $100.
Great.
And get totally launched and ready to go.
Excellent. Ooh, I love that.
And the Google Plus guide is more of what we talked about today.
Exactly.
It's deeper on everything.
Perfect. Great. I love that. And I can just think of so many people I can recommend the podcast one to.
Well, I would love to have them.
Excellent.
It's a really fun program to get to, and I so love podcasting that it's super fun to I had a couple weeks ago, I had 3 women who've been through the program launch their podcast, and I was like, yay!
I love it. I love that so many more women are podcasting these days, because when I started my podcast last year, I couldn't find the kind of podcast that I wanted to listen to, and that's why I started mine, because I just couldn't find anything, and now there's tons of women podcasting. It's great.
Yeah, I started mine last November, mostly because I hated writing blog posts.
Excellent. I love that. Well, I love writing, so now I've got, these multiple content streams and things that I've got to create, which I love, so I won't complain. So, Stacey, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can people find you online?
You guys can find me at thestaceyharris.com. So, Stacey is spelled with an E, so it's TheStaceyHarris.com. And everything there. BAM is there, the Business Amplify Mastermind. All the Rockstar Guides are there. The podcast is there. I'll probably start making blog posts for the videos too someday. I only have 1 episode out so far, so I figure I'm not too far behind. But yeah, everything is there. Links to me on social. Everything is at thestaceyharris.com.
Excellent. Fabulous. Thank you so much. And I'll share links to all of your other social media profiles as well in the show notes. So thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for sharing us so much information about Google Plus. And, as I said, I use it, but I'm not thrilled about it. So I think I'm going to take a look at it with a new perspective and see if I can love it.
Thanks for having me. Anytime I get to get on a show and try and convert people to loving Google Plus is A-okay with me. So Excellent. Thank you. I do think it's a really cool, fun place to be. So come hang out with me.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. All right. And thank you for listening. And remember to visit sociallyholistic.com/SHP62 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Socially Holistic Podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. Please help us help more women in business by giving us a 5-star review of this podcast. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more successful businesses there will be. So please leave a 5-star review today over at iTunes. Thank you.